Welcome back, everyone. Today's deep dive is going to be pretty fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be exploring some stories about the Ganga in
Right.
Hinduism, and specifically from the Brahma Purana.
Interesting.
I think most of our listeners are probably familiar with how important the Ganga is.
Yeah.
You know, it's seen as this life-giving, purifying force.
Well, absolutely. It's central to so many rituals and beliefs. And, it's almost a deity in itself.
Right.
The Ganga represents purity and the possibility of liberation.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's what makes this deep dive so interesting,
Yeah.
because we're working with a translated audio excerpt of the Brahma Purana,
Okay.
and it kind of uncovers this whole other side to the Ganga's story. We're going to learn about the Ganga's sister,
Oh, wow.
a river also said to descend from the heavens, but with a very unique origin story. I'm intrigued. What can you tell us?
Well, the Brahma Purana actually describes two descents of the Ganga from the heavens to earth.
Two descents.
Yes.
That's fascinating.
The first and more famous one is tied to King Bhagirath.
Okay.
And he performed this incredibly intense penance to bring the Ganga down to earth to purify the ashes of his ancestors.
Right.
But the second, lesser-known descent
Okay.
involves a sage named Gautam, and interestingly, a connection to Shiva.
Oh, wow.
That's the one we'll be exploring today.
Okay, so two separate descents of the Ganga.
Yeah.
One connected to King Bhagirath,
Right.
the other to this sage named Gautam.
Exactly.
What can you tell us about Gautam?
Well, the Brahma Purana tells us Gautam went on this pilgrimage to Mount Kailash, which is Shiva's abode.
Right.
And during his pilgrimage, Gautam sang this incredibly heartfelt hymn,
Wow.
where he praised all of Shiva's different forms and powers.
I can only imagine what that must have sounded like. What kinds of things did he focus on in his hymn?
Well, he really emphasized Shiva's role in creation,
Okay.
preservation, and destruction, and how he was connected to these fundamental elements like water and fire.
So very grand cosmic praise of Shiva's power.
Yeah. What happened next?
Well, Shiva,
Yeah.
he's known for both creation and destruction.
Right.
He was really moved by Gautam's devotion.
Okay.
And as a reward, he offered Gautam a boon.
Oh, a divine favor.
Yes, exactly. And for his boon,
Good.
Gautam requested that the divine Ganga, who resides in Shiva's matted hair,
Okay.
be released upon the earth.
That's incredible. Asking for a piece of a god.
It's a big ask.
What did Shiva say?
Well, he granted Gautam's wish.
Wow.
He released the Ganga from his hair,
Really?
and as it flowed down to earth,
Yeah.
it came to rest on Brahmagiri mountain.
Okay.
It's here that the Ganga takes on the name Godavari.
So two descents of the Ganga.
Yes.
But with two different names, Ganga and Godavari.
Right.
They're sisters.
They are.
And it sounds like Shiva was really central to the creation of this Godavari river.
He was.
It seems like that connection to Shiva would make the river especially sacred. Absolutely. And that's why the Godavari is also believed to have this power to purify.
Yeah, just like the Ganga.
Exactly. Anyone who bathes in her waters is said to be cleansed of their sins.
That idea of purification comes up a lot in these stories.
It does.
I'm curious, what was it about the Godavari that was so special?
Wow.
Was it just that she descended from Shiva's hair?
Well, that's part of it.
Or is there more to it?
Yeah, definitely more to it. Well, the text highlights this specific power associated with the Godavari. It says that even those who die within a certain distance of her banks can attain liberation, regardless of whether they physically bathe in her waters or not.
That's incredible. It seems to suggest that just being near the Godavari has power in itself.
It speaks to this idea of grace being available to everyone,
Yeah.
whether or not they actively seek it out. It's a really fascinating concept
Yeah.
when you consider the emphasis on ritual purity in Hinduism.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if just being near is enough.
Yeah.
Then what's the point of the rituals?
Right. That's a great question. And it's actually something that the Brahma Purana addresses
Okay.
when Shiva gives this boon to Gautam.
Yeah.
He doesn't just give him a river. He outlines specific rituals and behaviors.
Oh, so there's more to it than just taking a dip in the water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about approaching the Godavari with a certain intention and reverence.
Okay.
For example, Shiva instructs Gautam to perform what's called a Nandyamukha Shraddha before he even approaches the river.
What's that?
It's a ritual focused on purifying ancestral lineage.
Oh, so you go to the river.
Yeah.
But first you have to honor your ancestors.
Yes. You approach the Godavari not just as an individual,
Right.
but as part of a lineage.
Oh, that's cool.
Those connections really matter.
Yeah, you can see that.
And then there's this emphasis on feeding Brahmins and seeking their blessings before entering the water.
I see.
It's all about cultivating humility and recognizing the importance of spiritual guidance.
Okay, so you prepare yourself spiritually.
Right.
And then you can take the dip in the Godavari. Is that it?
Not quite. Even the act of bathing comes with guidelines.
Oh, really?
Shiva emphasizes the importance of mental purity, controlling your thoughts, your words, your actions. He actually tells Gautam that the full benefit of the Godavari's power is only available to those who have mastered self-control.
So it's not just about the external act of bathing, but about internal transformation as well.
Yes. The physical act without the inner work is meaningless. And, just to emphasize how important this is,
Yeah.
Shiva declares that the Godavari is more sacred than the Ganga.
Whoa. More sacred than the Ganga. That's a pretty big statement. Why do you think the Brahma Purana might be emphasizing the Godavari's power so much in this story?
It is fascinating. There are lots of possible interpretations. It could be a way of highlighting the regional importance of the Godavari River.
Okay, so like a way of elevating the status of a local river.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It could also be about highlighting different paths to liberation.
Okay.
I mean, after all, Hinduism is not a monolithic religion.
Right.
There were diverse beliefs and practices.
That makes sense. It's like the Brahma Purana is showing us multiple perspectives on how to connect with the divine.
Right.
This is Godavari River that's described in the Brahma Purana.
Yeah.
Does it actually exist?
It does. It's one of the major rivers in India,
Oh, wow.
considered sacred, just like the Ganga. And here's another interesting thing. It's believed to originate from the Brahmagiri Hills,
Oh, wow.
the same place mentioned in the story.
So the myth and the geographical reality kind of intersect.
They do. It makes you wonder about the relationship between stories and places.
Yeah. How much of the myth was inspired by the actual Godavari River and its geography?
Yeah.
We may never know.
Probably not. But it adds another layer of mystery and intrigue to the whole thing.
Definitely. As we're discussing all this,
Yeah.
I can't help but think about the symbolism. I mean, a river flowing from Shiva's hair.
It's a pretty powerful image.
It really is.
Yeah.
What do you think it symbolizes?
Yeah, it's a great question. Hair in a lot of cultures,
Yeah.
is associated with wisdom and power. And in the case of Shiva, whose hair is matted and unkempt,
Right.
it perhaps symbolizes that untamed, raw energy of the cosmos.
Uh-huh.
And then you have the river,
Right.
which is this classic symbol of life and purification.
Right.
So putting it all together, you could see the Godavari's descent from Shiva's hair as this representation of divine power flowing into the world, bringing with it the potential for cleansing and renewal.
That's a beautiful way to look at it.
Yeah.
It makes me think about how this story is relevant to us today.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we might not have a literal river
Right.
flowing from the hair of a god,
Yeah.
but we all have sources of inspiration and renewal in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things that bring us peace, purpose, or connection.
Right.
It makes me think about those things
I agree.
when I think about this story.
And just as Shiva outlines those specific practices for approaching the Godavari,
Yeah.
we can also cultivate practices that help us access those sources of inspiration and renewal in our own lives.
That's a good point.
Whether it's through meditation or spending time in nature, or even just connecting with loved ones.
Yeah.
There are ways for all of us to tap into that divine energy, that flow of life and possibility that's all around us.
You mentioned that Shiva outlined all those practices for approaching the Godavari.
Yeah.
Did he have any other instructions?
He did. He actually went on to describe specific locations along the Godavari
Oh, really?
that would become these really powerful pilgrimage sites.
Okay.
You could say he was creating a spiritual roadmap for people who were seeking purification and enlightenment.
So he wasn't content with just creating one sacred spot.
No, not at all. The Brahma Purana says that there are 3 crore, that's 30 million sacred spots along the Godavari.
Wow. That's a lot of sacred spots.
A lot. It really emphasizes that the Godavari's power is constantly flowing.
Uh-huh.
It's accessible all the time,
Right.
not just during specific events or festivals.
That seems like a really important point. It's like
Yeah.
Shiva is making the divine available to everyone.
Yeah, it challenges this idea that spirituality is exclusive or restricted to certain people and places.
Yeah.
It's really about recognizing that there's a sacredness in everything
Right.
and that there are so many paths to connect with that deeper reality.
Yeah.
The divine energy that flows through all things.
I love that. What would you say is the main takeaway from the story of the Godavari? For listeners who might not be familiar with Hindu mythology or haven't been on a pilgrimage to India.
Well, I think the story reminds us that there are so many paths to connect with something larger than ourselves.
Hmm.
And those paths don't have to involve these huge gestures
Yeah,
or epic journeys.
right.
They can be found in the everyday, in the moments of quiet reflection,
Yeah.
the acts of kindness we show to others,
Mhm.
and even the rituals we create that bring meaning to our lives.
It's a beautiful way to put it. As we wrap up our deep dive into the story of the Godavari,
Yeah.
is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
Well, maybe just this. As you all go about your day to day, just be open to that possibility of the sacred showing up in unexpected ways.
Okay.
It might be a moment of awe
Yeah.
when you see a sunset or a feeling of deep connection,
Right.
when you share a laugh with a friend or a sense of purpose,
Mm.
when you're doing work that you love.
Yeah.
It's like just as the Godavari flowed from this totally unexpected place,
Shiva's hair.
right? She's this matted hair.
Yeah.
That divine spark can enter our lives
Mm.
in the most unexpected of ways.
Mm.
Keep your heart open and your mind curious and embrace the journey.
That's great advice. Well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
It's my pleasure.
And to our listeners, we'll see you next time.